All right. Going for recording and hard drive's going. And three, two, one. Hello, the internet. Matthew here for another great episode of Something Creative. I have for you today an amazingly wonderful, beautiful, incredible person, Andrea Cillo. And a little different today, we have a dancer. And not just any dancer, she is a ballet dancer. You heard me right. She is a belly dancer. You heard me right. She is a ballet dancer. Uh, and I know that joke probably gets old, but how
Well,
much do you
not
have to deal
old.
with it?
I'm used to hearing it because
Yeah?
prior to my belly dance career, when I would talk about, when people would ask me like, "Oh, what do you do?" and I said, "Oh, I'm a ballet dancer," they'd be like, "Oh, you belly dance?" And I'd be like, "No." And now that I actually do belly dance, I'm like, "Yes, but that's not what I said."
Yeah, it had to be specific. Um,
Yeah.
all right, so what's the story of Andrea getting into dance? Like, when did this begin?
So it actually all started when I was about 2 years old. My mom took me to go see the Nutcracker,
Mm.
which is the same Nutcracker that I've actually been performing in for the past like 100 years. But my mom took me to go see the Nutcracker, and I stood up in the middle of what's called the snow potager. And for those who don't know, a potager is when the guy and the girl dance together. They do all sorts of lifts and extensive turns and cool balances and things like that. So anyway, I stood up in the middle of that and I pointed at the stage and I said, I want to be that, but without him because I don't need his help. And then so the next year when I was 3, my mom signed me up for classes. And then actually by the time I was a senior in high school, I had the opportunity to learn the role of Snow Queen and perform it and learned that I do in fact need his help. But ended up being a really great college entry essay.
All right, so that's where it started, and you've been doing ballet. And then, so when did belly dancing get started?
I want to say like 7-ish years ago, somewhere around
Mhm.
that. A friend of mine was introduced to belly dance by a friend of hers, and then she brought me in. She's like, "You have to come take a class one day. It's so much fun. You're gonna love it." And I was like, "All right, whatever." But I went in and I did love it. It was a total challenge because it's a very different way of moving than belly. Sorry, than see now I'm
How
confusing.
are you doing it?
So it was a very different way of moving from ballet dance. But when I saw like the costuming and learned a little bit of the culture behind it, I just fell in love. I thought it was so fun, and um, it was like exciting and like liberating to kind of move in a way that wasn't like strict ballet or even like contemporary. It was just
Mhm.
very different for me. So I loved it.
All right, so where does so you all right? So your friend brought you in because her friend brought her in, so y'all kind of just drank the Kool-Aid together.
Yeah, it tasted great.
So where are the similarities and differences? I mean, everybody knows what ballet is. Some people might not entirely understand what belly dancing really is and like how it compares to, like, let's say, ballet.
Yeah, so interestingly, the sort of core structure of belly dance is taken from ballet dance. Belly dance actually isn't that old of a technique. It's probably only about 100 years old.
Really?
Yeah, believe it or not. So
Like, we
it's
have all these images of like the Arabian Nights and these beautiful women doing this great.
mhm.
Not that
No,
old,
that's not
really.
where it came from. Yeah, very interestingly, it kind of uh, I mean, the tribal sort of dancing, I guess, is kind of where it like has like some roots. But belly dance, as we understand it today, with like the flashy, glitzy costumes and all of that, really was just like a show to put on for people that had this idea of what this exotic belly dance was. They kind of played into it, and that's what the belly dance that we understand today.
So it's like the
Um,
Chinese food of dancing.
yeah, basically.
It's the worst illustration, but I'm hungry.
I know some dumplings sound really great right now.
No, right?
um yeah, so again, the actual like belly dancing as we know it today really isn't that old. More like tribal kind of dancing is, but the structure and sort of technique that developed around this like newer belly dance, I'll call it,
Yeah.
was actually based in ballet. And so how you hold your core within ballet, and how you align your hips and your shoulders, is the same within belly dance. And again, all of your movement kind of extends from coming, but always comes back to that center. So it extends from and comes back to that center. So like for example, like doing like a hip shimmy. If these are your hips,
Mhm.
what you'll see somebody doing is they'll kind of shake their hips back and forth like this.
Yeah.
Although one would assume that all you're doing is kind of contracting one muscle and contracting the other side and getting that wiggle. But it's actually, there's more to it than that. It's contracting the one side, but also being able to release in the other, and then kind of coming back into that center and then doing the opposite, contracting one side and completely releasing the other to get that motion. So again, it's very cool.
The Pilates instructor, massage therapist, martial artist really wants to dive deeper into that technical stuff. That's not
Mhm.
the point of this series. The point of this series is
It's
about
very creative.
your creativity, your passion for it, which is obviously coming out right now. Because even talking about the technical stuff, these eyes of yours are lit up. And oh yeah, see with the hips, because it
I
obviously
love
comes out.
technique. And whenever I'm teaching like ballet, I'm always just like, make sure when you're turning out your legs that you're using your glute minimus muscle and your glute medius, and you have to engage your abdominal muscles. And I literally I quiz my kids on anatomy, because to me it's so important. Like your technique and your placement is always where everything comes back to. No matter how creative you want to be, you
Yeah.
need to have that center and that foundation. And so I get equally as excited about like technique and talking about like muscles and stuff, as I get about actually like the creative process.
Well, now I want to actually talk about that creative
Okay.
process. So you teach ballet, and
Hmm.
you've been teaching ballet for how long now?
Oh gosh, I started like student teaching, I think, when I was like 16,
Mhm.
so a long time.
Not asking how
So,
long.
about yeah, actually, oh my god, 16 years, yeah.
Oh, all right.
Mm.
So, what is the process like for you, or I should say, like what kind of levels? Like, is obviously it's going to be different for different levels if you're
Mhm.
teaching little kids versus like adults. But what's like the creative process for you like when you have to like do a pageant or anything? What goes through your head? How do you get this started?
So the music is really what I feel informs me. If there's like a theme or whatever that we're going with, picking music that follows that theme kind of like informs how that movement should be.
Hmm.
So the last like big thing I kind of choreographed for the kids was actually a hoedown. We did it at what was it? I think it was the Apple Harvest Festival. Um, it's held in like, oh gosh, I'd have to get back to you on where it's held. But the Kissimmee House, I think, it's in Huntington or it's in Northport. I'll have to get
I
back
know
to you
what
on
you're
those
talking about.
details.
Yeah.
But point is, they have a this Apple Harvest Festival, and they invited the kids to perform at it. And I had literally 3 rehearsals to choreograph, like, oh gosh, how long was the piece? I think it was like 5 or 6 minutes. Like I flew through that choreography. These kids picked up on it. They were so amazing. I'm so proud of these girls. But having the theme that they were going for, which was a hoedown, and then the music, which is actually a hoedown, really kind of like helped inform where I was going with the choreography. And then to kind of like mapping out like how many people you're going to be working with. You can kind of come up with different formations and how they can change those formations and whatnot. Um, so just yeah, once you have parameters, there's like so much that you can kind of do, and those parameters will sort of inform, like I said, where the choreography goes.
All right. So, music is the thing really you start with. And
Yeah.
then, so does it? I mean, do you work off like old scripts that pieces you remember, or is it really just kind of you listen to the music and you see it happening, and your brain goes, "Ooh, do this." Like, what is it? Do you borrow more from the past experience, or does it just kind of?
A little of each. Again, like if there's some intonation in the music,
Hmm.
that reminds me of something I saw in like another ballet or maybe another piece that I was a part of, that will sort of like trigger and be like, oh, that'd be really perfect here. But most of it is just listening to the music and how that music flows and then how movement moves with the music.
All right, and that's more, you would say, instinctual to like
Yeah,
match that
I
movement.
guess. Yeah. What's funny though is like when I hear music, what I think of in my head isn't always what my body wants to do. So
Really?
improvising is actually really difficult for me because I can hear music and I can think of a ton of stuff and then like I go to start moving and like my body's not doing the same thing and then I'm like, I don't know.
Well, what's
So,
more important then, the vision or the actual? Like, do you in a way, I should say, like, do you really like let it go in that sense? Like, okay, my body just wants to do this, so I'm going to do this instead. Or do you kind of try to get your vision to override what your body wants and like get your body to match your vision? Which is more important to you usually?
um, I think it kind of depends on the situation. 'Cause as much as my head might vision something and be like, "This is perfect right here," if it just doesn't work like physically, then it just doesn't work. And that's especially true when I'm choreographing for other people. Like if I'm working with like the kids, if I have this idea in my head of like, "Oh, we're gonna do this series of steps," and I give it to them, and it's either too fast or it's too difficult, or it's not coordinating with the music in the way that I envision it. That's how you know it's like, all right, we just have to change it. And that it's those moments where you kind of get stuck that I feel like going with what your body tells you is better than like staying strict to that vision.
Right, especially when it's other people. Now,
Yeah, especially with other people.
I've done martial arts choreography before for a few different productions, and I found that to be the exact same limitation
Mhm.
is, "Oh, this would be awesome." It's like, "What, you can't lift your leg over waist height? Great."
And and I do this like when I teach classes too. I'll come up with a combination and I'll be like, oh, that's perfect. And I go and I give it to the class. I'm like, okay, ready, let's go. And then I'll play the music. And turns out it's like incredibly fast. And I like didn't realize how fast it was or something. And then I'll like they'll finish the combination. And I'll be like, sorry guys, but do it to the left. I'm not changing the music.
All right, so now I want to talk a little bit more about the teaching itself, and I'm going to bring up the thing nobody wants to really keep talking about, but COVID.
Mhm.
What were you doing? Were you on Zoom? Were classes
Mhm.
like done? Like, oh, Zoom, right?
Yeah, yeah, we did it over Zoom. I just set up in my kitchen. I had my computer all set up and I just taught the kids class over Zoom. And the kids were really wonderful. And we were kind of nervous at first with how the reaction was going to be because, parents like paid for live classes and they expect like the teacher to be there to physically correct them and everything. And we just couldn't make it happen. But um it ended up being that like the parents were just like, and the kids too were just so happy to like hear ballet music and to hear the piano and to have like a class and a structure and everything kind of established again. That it, like I said, it ended up being a really like interesting experience. Correcting the children though is definitely a challenge. Like I said, I'm used to kind of just like grabbing them and be like, you hold your hips like this and you have to hold here and like poking at them and telling like showing them physically like which muscles they need to activate. And so obviously not being able to do that over a computer, it was like how do I do that? And even now we are back in the studio, practicing social distancing and keeping them separate as best as we can. Everybody's got masks on, but I can't just like go over to them and start grabbing them the way that like I might have used to. So I have to. It's finding new ways of engaging or teaching them how to engage the muscles and everything correctly without me physically like pointing. This is what you have to do. This is what you have to feel, kind of a thing.
I can't imagine how tough that would be. I give you a lot of credit. I really do. That
I
takes a lot.
I honestly I give the kids a lot of credit because they did really well in keeping up with their technique, through Zoom. And I mean, I do a lot of talking in general. Like as you saw, like I get very excited about technique and anatomy and all of that. And so the kids are kind of used to me talking about it anyway. So, but I feel like it was good for them almost because they were able to kind of, instead of just being like, all right, Miss Andrews going on a tangent again, they would actually like hear what I'm saying and kind of figure out how to do that on their own, you know?
So you
So
feel
the kids are
like
great.
like it kind of forced them to grow a little bit and to take all the stuff you've been yammering at them and actually really apply it now because they kind of have it like
Yeah.
on their own in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Because again, it wasn't me like kind of, I guess, like when you're working physically, it's almost like you're doing it for them.
Mhm.
um, and which can be helpful to a certain degree, but um, ultimately it's you that has to make those corrections. It's you that has to know how you're holding yourself, what has to activate and when, and you know, me doing it for you isn't going to do that. So you know, it was so the kids, like I said, really were able to work on that, and I feel a lot of them really improved in that way.
So you're obviously very passionate about dance and about the creative expression that is dance in and of itself. Sounds to me like your kids are drinking the Kool-Aid too.
Yeah, they we are really lucky. I love teaching at my school. Actually, the I was teaching at another school in the past as well. And all of those kids, no matter what their technical skill is, you're in dance class because you love to dance and you love to move. And it's I feel it's such an an innate form of expression. Like, you know, you put music on and babies will just automatically start bopping to it, you
Yeah.
know? It's in all of us, and every kid that walks through that door, no matter what studio I'm teaching at, has that passion for dance. You know, it may not be a passion for ballet, but they love to dance, and have like being like seeing their joy too when they nail that triple pirouette, or when they get that variation down perfectly. It's like it you know, it excites me, which excites them, and so
It's a
it's a
positive feedback.
it's a yeah, it's just really great. I mean, I love it. Great
So,
Kool-Aid. Great delicious Kool-Aid.
so I'm going to ask an obvious question. Is there really an end to this for you?
I hope not.
I said it was
You
an
know,
obvious question.
it's funny, my ballet teacher, he had said that he planned on jeting right out of this world. Jeté is like a big jump,
Yeah, I
um,
do. Yeah.
and he certainly did. You know, he literally taught up until the day that he passed away. So it was
And your
in
teacher's name?
him. Oh, Frank Oman.
Right. And you're at his school still, right?
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to be dropping the IG so that other people can
Yeah, please do.
follow.
Yeah, and you know, if you don't mind me promoting a little bit, you know, we
Of course.
just asked LaCour, who is a principal dancer with the New York City Ballet, has taken over in Mr. Roman's place. He's got some big shoes to fill, but he is doing such an amazing job. It is such an honor to be working with him. He loves those kids, and you know, they really enjoy him too. So he's creating a really great space. And he was really too the one that kind of spearheaded us really teaching over Zoom. You know, we didn't waste any time. I think there was like 2 weeks we were kind of figuring out what to do, and he was like, "We're going on Zoom. Here's the schedule. Let's just do it." And so,
Oh, what's his name
yeah,
again?
ask LaCour.
How do I spell that?
ASK
Uh-huh.
and LACOUR, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll double check
Okay,
that out
we'll
for
double
you.
check afterwards.
Yeah,
I'm gonna make sure I put his info down too. He sounds
hmm
like an incredible guy, and it
yeah.
sounds to me like you had a great mentor in Frank Almond.
Yeah,
How
that
long were you
he was
under?
like a father to me, really.
Well, how long were you under his tutelage for?
Since I was 7. Yeah, I when I first started dancing, I was at like a more of like a competition dance school. I did like tap and jazz and a little bit of ballet. And then when I was 7, my mom brought me to the Frank School of Ballet. Several of my cousins had danced there. That was the Nutcracker that I saw was his Nutcracker.
Oh,
Um, and so when I was about 10, my mom was like, I know I can't keep bringing you to 2 different dance schools, so you need to choose. And I didn't even think about it. I was just like, I'm going to do ballet.
oh man,
And that was it. I was with him forever, you know, forever.
yeah. Yeah, that so how important, again, another obvious answer, but I need to hear you say it. How important is it to have someone like that? Because there are plenty of people I'm sure who are like, "Oh, I'm going to take dance classes," and they don't really stick with it. How important do you think it is for somebody to have like an actual mentor in
Mhm.
somebody to really do you, or I should say, all right, let me phrase the question this way. Do you think, how important do you think it is to have a mentor to keep someone hooked into dance? Or is it that natural drive will keep them there? Like, what's the
I
balance?
I think it actually might be more that natural drive because there were several, you know, several people who I had danced with, kids that I taught that didn't stick with ballet, but still took everything that Mr. Roman had taught them, like the self discipline and everything that kind of comes with ballet, and applied it to whatever they wanted to do from there. Be it like one of my students is the like what is she she like leads her school's marching band, and so still loves dance, but that was really like her passion, and so she ended up stepping away from dance to follow that, and took what Mr. Roman had taught her and applied that same drive and discipline to whatever she was doing now, and that's true of so many other students, and I feel like that is more the part that is really important when it comes to a mentor is when their teachings go beyond what they initially sort of taught you, if that makes sense.
That makes an amazing amount of sense.
Mhm.
And I don't even know where to go from here. That was a perfect high note to end this on. So, if you guys want to know more about what Andrea's doing, you want to know more about the Frank Ullman School, all that information will be down in the description of this video on YouTube. Of course, Instagram information is all down below. So make sure you're checking that out and following that out. And what would you say, last question, what would you say is the best piece of advice you would give someone who's even thinking about exploring dance? What should they be looking for? What advice would you give some young child about to do what you did?
um oh gosh, one piece of advice.
Just one.
This one, um it's two technically, but
Okay.
uh
We'll call it a part A, part B.
part A, part B. So part A is to do your research. It's so important to make sure that how you're being educated is correct. As wonderful as it is to be able to express yourself in whatever way you so choose,
Mhm.
there is still a technique to it, and um, the technique is there to protect you and to keep your body from injury. And if you're not being taught proper technique, you again, you make yourself susceptible to injuries. And the other thing I will say is just follow your heart. Do it. If you want to dance, just go dance. That's that's the best part about it is being able um to like say what you're feeling without using words is just a whole different way of expressing yourself. So if you're thinking about it, do
Perfect.
it.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate you coming on. So, from Matt and Andrea, this has been another great episode of Something, Something, Something Creative. Thank you for joining us. Catch you on the next one. Take care, everybody.